Welcome everyone to Woodstock City Council. It is April 20th, 2023. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238 subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. The meeting will also be broadcast on Rogers TV. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. And all councilors are here tonight, so no one attending virtually on council. We did have a closed session tonight that ended around 6:47, 6:48. So now I'll ask if there's any disclosure of conflict of interest here in the open session. Seeing none. There are no disclosures of new business that I'm aware of. Matters arising from the minutes, and now the minutes. Councillor Schattenberg.
Moved by myself, Councillor Schattenberg, seconded by Councillor Van Meer, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on April the 6th, 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns with that? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Now additions to the agenda. Councillor Schattenberg.
Moved by myself, Councillor Mark Schattenberg, seconded by Councillor Tate, that the following item be added to the agenda. Olivia Voyne and Tyler Hines regarding OP 22-28-8 and ZN 8-22-23 applications for official plan amendment and zone change pertaining to 215 Raglan Street.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns with that? Seeing none, all those in favor? And none opposed. Presentations, now we'll get into delegations. So at this point, I'll welcome Olivia Voyne and Tyler Hines on the said application. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Feel free to move that a little closer to you. Yeah, please do.
We're good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. As Mayor Accioni said, we're here as we have some concerns regarding the proposal for 215 Raglan Street. But first, just a brief kind of background on us and why we're here. Kyler and I are born and raised city dwellers, if you will. We relocated to Woodstock in the fall of 2021. In the last 10 years together, we've spent many hours driving through smaller cities, kind of dreaming of the perfect place to settle down and start our life together. And we found that in our home on Raglan Street.
Hello, and thank you again for having us. We wanted to just start off with one of our immediate concerns being that we are directly across from 215. We've had experiences with larger vehicles such as fire trucks that have had a problem coming into the driveway at 215 because of the limited space on the street, given there is only 28 and a little bit 3 inches, I believe, of street access. Basically what's happened in the past is they do have to enter our driveway to then straighten out and go into the driveway of 215. Now, again, in terms of emergency vehicles, of course, we have no issue with this. In terms of private construction eating up our driveway, definitely a concern for us. And we also have some concerns about potential property damage to all properties in the adjacent area of this property, given its settlement kind of right in the middle of about 20 different structures.
Our next concern, and this came up in the planning meeting the other night, was tenant displacement. The folks that live there now, there are 3 or 4 people in that building. They're our neighbors. And obviously we're not really sure about what the property owner's plans for the tenants are at this point, but we have close personal friends and we've read plenty of articles lately about these renovictions, if you will. And so we're concerned about the tenants that are there currently being displaced, not having anywhere to go, not being accommodated during construction, that sort of thing. So we wouldn't want, obviously, to kind of see them in a bind. We want to make sure that they're able to either stay where they are or that they're sufficiently accommodated. Next main concern we have is noise. The neighborhood is very, very quiet, which is a key reason why we moved there. But for me personally, I work from home. My company no longer has a physical office, so I need to work from home. And I'm worried about construction noise kind of, I have a lot of meetings during the day, and I'm worried about the noise. We've also got pets. There are a lot of pets on the street that we're a little bit nervous about the noise as well. And if you want to take the last one, Tyler.
Yep. So it was mentioned as well on April 17th at the meeting that there will be very limited visitor parking in the new parking lot of 215. We are fairly worried about any overflow coming onto the street, potentially causing hazardous situations, given that we are only allowed to park for 5 consecutive hours on the street as it is, and not at all in the winter. So we are worried about holidays potentially, and it really doesn't have any accommodation for multiple people having overnight visits if they're not dropped off by somebody else.
Finally, we just have a concern about privacy, particularly in the properties on Waterloo Street and Park Row. We were walking through the neighborhood the other night, and we were really looking at how close the backyards are to this particular property. And a new building with balconies that spans 3 stories will definitely overlook these backyards. So the people that live there won't really have much privacy going forward. And I believe that is it.
Yep.
Tyler, thank you very much again for allowing us to voice our concerns tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions of delegation? Councillor Leatherborough, if you don't mind sticking around for a minute.
Sure.
Through your worship, thank you so much for coming forward with your concerns. Myself and some of my colleagues had similar questions about the existing tenants that we did ask to find out kind of their status or what would happen during construction. So I just wanted to share the information that we received,
Yes,
which is
please.
1 unit is vacant. 1 unit works alongside CMHA. So CMHA will be assisting that individual with
Transition.
next steps, if you will, and then 3 units are actively looking elsewhere. So I did just want to share that that was important to me as well. And I was wondering through your worship, if Eric, the planner, could speak to, I believe there's going to be fencing, just when you referenced privacy.
Still go over it? Yeah, thank you.
To the question, yeah, typically staff look to confirm that the property is appropriately fenced. In this case, it's exempt from site plan control, but staff will look to look at that through the building permit process.
Thank you. Any other questions of the delegation? Okay, seeing none, we will be voting on this a little later on.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for hearing
Thank
us
you.
out.
Thank you for coming up. Next up, I would ask Taylor Bridges, Zelenka Primo Limited.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, council members, staff, and members of the public. My name is Taylor Bridges, and I'm a planning consultant with Zelenka Primo Limited. Here today on behalf of Southside Construction Management, the landowners of 245 Drew Street. I don't have like a formal presentation for you today, but first I would like to thank staff for their work on this project to date. We've had the opportunity to carefully review the report prepared by staff, and we appreciate their consideration and their recommendation for approval. This application is for the approval of draft plan of condominium in order to facilitate condominium ownership of 78 apartment dwelling units and exemption from the draft approval process. Each apartment unit is intended to be for the exclusive use of individual owners with common ownership of communal features. This development has undergone a complete evaluation through the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and site plan approval process, and has been subject to an extensive public consultation process to date. Because of this, we believe that the application for exemption is appropriate, and we agree with staff's assessment and we appreciate their support. So I'm here today seeking a positive endorsement from this council, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Bridges? Counselor Shanberg.
Yeah, from the chair through to Mrs. Bridges. I guess the question would be is, are each of the individual apartments going to be sold individually as if it was a condo for individual conveyance?
Yes, that is the intention, that each unit will be owned individually with common ownership of communal features.
Thank you. Any other questions of the delegation? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much for being here tonight virtually. Have a great
Thank you.
Thank you. We will vote on that later on this evening. Next up, consideration of planning reports. B 22-84-8 and B 22-85-8, B 22-86-8, and ZN 8-22-16. Mr. Gilbert. Oh, I need a motion first, sorry. Counselor Tate, seconded by Counselor Lauder. Mr. Gilbert.
Let me read the motion. I move that Woodstock Council advise the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject property together with the easements necessary to provide access and or serving to each of the lots to be severed and retained, subject to conditions 1 to 6, and further that Woodstock City Council approves the zone change application submitted by Arnold Spina and Luke Welsh, whereby the lands described as Lot 4, Plan 197, City of Woodstock, are to be rezoned from residential 2 to special residential 3 to recognize the location of existing dwellings on the subject lands and to facilitate the subdivision of an existing 4-unit townhouse, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. So this application was deferred at the February City Council meeting. At that time, the applicants proposing to sever the 4 units plus an additional vacant lot at the rear. And staff had concerns about provision of required parking and the number and extent of the relief required to the zoning bylaw. Since then, the applicants has worked with staff to revise the proposal so that each unit will have 2 parking spaces in the rear of the property with appropriate easements for access to each of those spaces. The requested zoning would basically recognize the existing building location as well as the reduced lot frontage for the end units. Staff recommend support and approval of the application.
Thank you. Any question of council? Seeing none. Okay. With that, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you very much. It's carried. Next up, looking for a motion for ZN 8-22-20. Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council approves zone change application ZN 8-22-20 submitted by McCowan and Associates Limited, Ron McCowan, for lands described as lots 1 to 6, registered plan number 4950 and 216, 645 Dundas Street in the city of Woodstock, whereby the applicant proposes to amend the current zoning to include a minimum gross floor area for non-residential uses of 92.9 square meters, 1,000 square feet. And further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
I am looking for a seconder on that. Counselor Schadenberg. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This site is zoned C5-1 in the city zoning bylaw and designated central business district. It's a bit unique that it's a suburban mall in a downtown context. The applicant's seeking relief of the minimum ground floor area provision. The current provisions in the zoning, which staff note aren't really supported by market impact studies or aren't required by any official plan policy, require a minimum unit area of 4,500 square feet. In this case, the applicant proposes two buildings, one for an eating establishment and the other for some retail units, as well as other eating establishments that are less than the 4,500 square feet, approximately 1,000 square feet. The proposal's been vetted by city and county staff, and we're nearing being able to approve the site plan. However, this zoning relief is required. Staff of the opinion that the proposed uses are permitted in zoning, just they're smaller than what's required. But staff suggests that the requested relief is appropriate and recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions of council? Councillor Leathero.
Through your worship, I just have some general comments about this planning report. I've gone back and forth all week about this. I thank my colleagues, the planner and staff for answering my questions. And through community engagement, I understand that residents are very excited about the anticipated Taco Bell. However, I am also hearing that people are concerned with more traffic along Dundas. I understand that an eating establishment and a drive-through are permitted within this zoning, but I just have a hard time getting behind that this could help traffic issues that aren't going away anytime soon, and our population is only going to increase. So with that, I will not be supporting the zoning relief on the basis of I think traffic is a concern and it's right next to the bus terminal. So just thanking staff and colleagues for answering my questions this week.
Okay. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would echo those comments. I have significant traffic concerns. When you are currently on Dundas heading eastbound, you are at the mercy of a westbound traveler to stop to allow you to currently turn left into that parking lot. Turning out of that lot is also complicated. Turning out and turning eastbound on Kent is complicated. And I think that adding significant traffic at what are already peak times of day of use for that plaza. And then you add in that a much needed transit service is located right there, and there are often blind spots for turning in and out of that lot. So I have concerns. Unfortunately, there isn't a mechanism to request a deferral for a traffic impact study, given the nature of the application. But those are my thoughts, and I'm curious how my fellow councillors feel about that.
Councillor Tate.
Just through the chair to the planner. Councillor Lauder forwarded me your comments about the traffic issue, and as I had stated earlier, we were talking about this. There used to be at that location a Harvey's and a Swiss Chalet. And I know that there's been plans for something at that parking lot for years. And I also recognize the fact that because it's been approved by the planning, that even if we turn it down, it's going through. So it'll end up just costing us money and we're going to lose in the end. So do you just want to comment to your comments about the traffic, because it is downtown? Our point is to get people downtown. So if you just want to comment on what you'd replied.
Sure. So Dundas is an arterial road, so typically it's designed to accommodate significant traffic. Generally, traffic in a commercial area in the downtown area generally isn't a problem in your planning policies, and you want to encourage people to come downtown. For that reason, city staff didn't request a traffic impact study. Also, given the presence of the traffic lights to the west at the bus terminal, there really isn't a good case to put traffic signals at this location right next to that. So given that, there wasn't many traffic improvements that could be implemented either. So for those reasons, we didn't require a traffic impact study.
Thank you. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair, just kind of a general comment on some of what I was hearing from folks in the community as well was kind of twofold on this. One is it is right beside the transit terminal, which a lot of people thought might be beneficial for people that are using transit. It's a quick location to grab a bite to eat while you're moving around the town, because there really isn't a whole lot to offer food wise in that area at this time with what's currently in that area. And also, I mean, I was a high school student when the original Taco Bell came, and I will tell you that we frequented that location a lot. And this is a great, in my opinion, a good spot for it for the high schools. I realize that not all the high schools are in that vicinity, but a few of them are. It's walking distance, except for my child maybe, to these schools. So I understand the traffic concerns. That was one of the questions I was asking a lot of people in the community and hearing their concerns. But I also had the chance to talk to some people and hear some of these aspects and thought, you know, it does seem like a decent location for these for these uses. So in my opinion, I would support it.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, just to Councillor Wismer Van Meer's comments. I may have already stated this, but I too will never pass up fries supreme, but I am concerned about this location. But just to your comment, it being next to the terminal, I did hear from families that high school students would really appreciate a Taco Bell downtown. And I, for one, am always encouraging people to come downtown. So just eateries to that point, there's Dairy Queen, there's 639, there's YFM, there's Whisk and Roll, and so on and so on. So there's lots of great eateries, and it sounds like out of my control, this will just be hopefully contributing to that. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions for the planner? Well, and I'll just simply state, I just remind everyone, we're here to vote on a square footage. It's not necessarily on what the business is or what they're doing there. That is what is being proposed. Businesses have been going there for a while and something will go there. So just remind you what we're voting. In that case, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next up, I'm looking for someone to move consideration and planning report B 23-08-8. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you. That Woodstock City Council advised the Oxford County Land Division Committee that the city supports the application for consent for lands described as chart lots 11 and 12, Plan 86 in the city of Woodstock to facilitate the creation of a new vacant residential lot subject to conditions 1 through 7.
Thank you. I do need a seconder on that motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This is a application for consent for a residential infill lot for a single detached dwelling. It's on the west side of Mill Street. The property is zoned R1. The lot to be severed and retained would comply with all the R1 zoning requirements. There was one concern raised by the public respecting an existing easement that's on the property to provide access to his property. However, the severance won't impact that, and any proposed dwelling would have to respect the terms of that easement. Given that, staff are satisfied that the proposed lot to be severed and retained comply with official plan criteria for infill severances and recommend support of the application.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Thank you. Next up, we have planning report B 22-97-8 and A 22-21-8. For a motion? Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports application file A 22-21-08 submitted by Rosa Filgomoni, pardon me, Philomeni, for lands described as lots 4 and 8, Plan 47, City of Woodstock, and municipally known as 77 Metcalf Street.
Can you continue?
The recommended relief meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as set out in section 45(1) of the Planning Act, and further that Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject lands subject to conditions 1 through 6.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder? Councillor Lauder. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This property is located at 77 Metcalf. It's designated entrepreneurial in zone C3. The proposed severance would create a new lot for a single detached dwelling while retaining a lot containing a single detached dwelling. The requested variance would reduce the lot depth, which basically reflects the existing lot depth of the lot, as well as a minor reduction to the lot area and to reduce the lot frontage for the proposed sever lot from 9 meters to 8.5 meters. The application was amended with following comments received from the building department that they wanted to see a greater access left for the lot to be retained. So the applicant has accommodated that. This area is characterized by a mix of lot sizes and types. And staff of the opinion that the proposed lot to be seven retained will fit in within the existing character of the neighborhood. We are of the opinion that the proposed minor variances are appropriate, minor, and meet the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and recommend support of the application.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Councillor Shanberg?
Thanks. I guess just really a comment. I do like the fact that this, generally this neighborhood has received a lot of improvements as of recent times. And I do like, of course, the fact that it's probably required as a necessity that the house to be built is actually going to be set back further off the road than the existing dwelling. So it's not blocking the view for anybody from the existing dwelling from their front porch whatsoever. It's set back further from the street.
Any other, or did you want to comment to that at all?
No, the applicant is
Okay.
maintaining the required front yard depth.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. 9E, OP 22-28-8 and ZN 8-22-23, looking for a motion? For a mover on that? Councillor Lauder?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council advise County Council that the city supports the application to amend the official plan file number OP 22-28-8 submitted by 2733153 Ontario Inc. and 2774487 Ontario Inc. for lands legally described as part of lots 2, Plan 55, City of Woodstock, to redesignate the subject lands to medium density residential to facilitate the development of a 3-story, 8-unit multiple attached dwelling building on the subject lands, and further that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application file number ZN 8-22-23 submitted by 2733153 Ontario Inc. and 2774487 Ontario Inc. for lands legally described as part of Park Lot 2, Plan 55 in the city of Woodstock to rezone the lands to special residential zone 3, R3 special to facilitate a 3-story, 8-unit multiple attached dwelling building with reduced lot frontage. And further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Leatherborough. Mr. Gilbert?
Thank you. This is a proposed redevelopment of a site between Park Row and Raglan Street. The property is known as 215 Raglan Street. The proposal is to redevelop or demolish and replace the existing 5-unit building with a new 8-unit building. The existing building is considered legal non-conforming. It wouldn't be permitted by the current R2 zoning. The proposed R3 zoning would permit the 8 units. As well, it would recognize the existing lot frontage. There's one existing access off Raglan Street, which is not proposed to be altered. And the proposed zoning will recognize that minimum lot frontage of 3.5 meters, as well to recognize the setback of that existing driveway to the interior lot lines. Otherwise, the building will meet all of the R3 zone provisions, including height and setbacks to adjacent property lines. The maximum height of the R3 zone, 11 meters, is the same as the maximum height of the R2 zone. So there could be a taller building. This proposed building could be as tall as the building that would be there today. The proposal does provide all the required parking, including visitor parking. And with respect to the official plan amendment, the proposed amendment would redesignate the site to medium density. However, the current density of the site is already at that level. It's already at 44 units per hectare, which is above the 30 limit max for the low density. And the proposed density at the end of the day would be 66 units per hectare. Staff are satisfied that the proposal is a good use of a good redevelopment of an existing underutilized site. And the proposal will be generally compatible with the surrounding development. And we recommend approval of the applications.
Thank you. Any questions of council to the planner? Councillor Lauder.
I know you mentioned it, parking on Monday evening. Could you just tell me again on the parking and how many visitor parking spaces are there or would be there?
So the applicant's required to provide 12 parking spaces for the 8 units. And that includes 1 visitor parking.
Thank you.
Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you through the chair. Again, more of a comment than a question. I feel like we're doing a very delicate dance here on this application of increasing rental units and housing availability in the city, but also balancing tenant displacement. So the 3 tenants who are currently looking elsewhere for housing will probably find it a challenge to find alternate housing and will probably not find it in the same price range of what they're paying now. So deep compassion felt for those tenants in the situation that they're facing. And yet at the same time, I do know that we need to be taking whatever strides forward we can on additional housing. So I want our community to know that your concerns have been heard. And that it is a very challenging balancing act that we face making this decision.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just a general comment. I did speak to Ms. Baker a little further after the original email that Councillor Leatherborough referenced earlier, just asking about these tenants that were going to be finding new locations. And I don't want to share the information of everything that was shared to me, but most of these people were well aware. One of them was already there on a short-term basis, knowing it was a short-term basis. Another person is just staying there in the meantime while they were looking for another location. So most of the folks, from what I understand from this conversation, were well aware of what was going to be taking place. Because that was a big concern for me, as well as Councillor Wheaton mentioned. That was something I wanted to take into consideration. So Ms. Baker did clarify a little more for me, but I do echo what Councillor Wheaton is saying, and that this is a very difficult decision to make while having to think about the future of our community as well.
Thank you. Councillor Schattenberg.
This is a question, I guess, of clarification. In the map, it shows obviously the access off Raglan Street to the subject property, Mr. Gilbert, but it also shows access to Park Row, but that the access in theory doesn't really exist, does it?
To Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Schattenberg's question, the property has legal frontage, but there's never been a driveway established there. So if you drive by, it kind of looks like it's someone else's yard, but it is actually belongs to this property. But they've always used the Raglan Street entrance, and that's proposed to remain.
The follow-up question to that, therefore, is there's another driveway that connects to Cathcart Street that's not on the drawing whatsoever. And just kind of curious, when it comes to construction vehicles, doesn't matter if it's a drywall guy or a plumber guy, will they be able to do like a circular entrance sort of off Raglan, then off onto Cathcart to sort of escape the property when they're done working for the day? Because that doesn't belong to the subject property.
I believe that driveway off Cathcart is city property, so I'm not certain of the terms of using that property. I mean, it may be a possibility.
All right.
Any other questions or comments on this application? Okay, I just want to echo Councillor Wheaton. I mean, this is the biggest thing. These are the tough decisions as council we do have to make. In saying that, the upside is we're adding 3 more residences to the city of Woodstock in dire need. So 3 more families are going to be ecstatic of having an opportunity. So it is, these are tough. We do have to basically get as much, do more with less these days, and this is recognizing one of those spots. There has been a place there. One of the questions I asked on Monday evening was, this is actually a smaller footprint than even what was existing there before. So in that way, if it is a plus at all to the neighbors, that it is a smaller, it's going to be a newer footprint. So with no other questions or comments, I'll call Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, and I agree with what has been said about with Councillor Wheaton and what you're saying. And if we were to turn this down for this reason, we wouldn't get anywhere. So it's not a reason for not accepting this the recommendation of this form here. So.
Okay, and with that, I guess I'll call a vote. All those in favor of the application? Opposed? 1, carried 6-1. It is approved. Next up, we have CD 22-03-8, application for draft of condominium. Looking for a motion. Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council advise County Council that the city supports the application for draft approval of a proposed condominium submitted by Southside Construction Management Limited, file number CD 22-03-8, prepared by Archibald Gray and McKay Limited, dated September 16, 2022, for lands described as part of Park Lot 6, south side of Ingersoll Ave, Plan 10, in the city of Woodstock, and further that city council advise county council that the city supports the application for exemption from the draft plan of condominium approval process submitted by Southside Construction Management Limited. File number CD 22-03-8, prepared by Archibald Gray and McKay Limited, dated September 16, 2022, for lands described as part of Park Lot 6, south side of Ingersoll Avenue, Plan 10, in the city of Woodstock, as all matters relating to the development have been addressed through the site plan approval process and registered site plan agreement with the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on that motion. Councillor Leatherborough. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This is a fairly straightforward application for a condominium approval and exemption condominium approval. To create a condominium corporation, you can do it 2 ways. One is through the draft plan of condominium process, which is similar to the subdivision process. It can be quite lengthy and take a lot of time. A quicker way is if the proposal receives the relevant planning approvals and goes through site plan approval. An agreement is signed, all development matters have been addressed, and then it's appropriate to do an exemption to condo approval, where the applicant can proceed to go directly to registration, as all of the relevant matters have been addressed. So in this case, the proposal did receive zoning and official plan amendment approvals from the city and county and site plan approval. So they're just looking to permit the creation of a condo corporation to allow each unit to be individually sold. Staff recommend approval of the application. And once we have resolution from city council, it proceeds to county council, and then the applicant can work to create the condo corporation in an expedited manner.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, just some comments. I'm really ecstatic to see more density in the city of Woodstock and this opportunity for people to get into the market for ownership and those that might be downsizing. So just general comments when we're talking about housing. It's great to have variety for residents in the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. I'll definitely agree with that. Anyone? Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you. Through the chair to the engineering department. That's on a bus route, isn't it, down Oxford Street?
Your worship, through the counselor, that is correct.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Thank you. And next up, we have consideration of correspondence, 10A. Counselor Tate,
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the in-kind donation request from K to K Productions.
thank you. Looking for a seconder. Counselor Leatherborough. Discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Unanimous. Carried. Thank you. Counselor 10B. Counselor Lauder has requested correspondence. Counselor Lauder.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Wheaton. Whereas Enbridge recently made an announcement of their intention to begin charging third-party contractors and other utilities $200 CAD plus applicable taxes for utility locates where a field locate is required. And whereas third-party contractors include Ontario municipalities, and whereas these locate requests are only required as Ontario municipalities have allowed utilities to use municipal right-of-ways at no charge to the utilities. And whereas this announcement of new download costs will negatively impact the budgets of Ontario municipalities, which are already burdened. And whereas if Enbridge is successful in implementing this new charge, a precedence is set for other utility community companies to also begin charging for locates. Therefore, be it resolved that Woodstock City Council strongly opposes these utility locate costs being downloaded to Ontario municipalities by Enbridge Gas or other utilities. And that the province of Ontario Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery make it clear that these costs must be borne by the utilities themselves. And that just at this decision be forwarded to Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery, Khalid Rashid, Minister of Infrastructure, Kinga Surma, Minister of Energy, Todd Smith, Premier Doug Ford, Oxford MPP, the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I support this resolution objecting to a new fee proposed by Enbridge Gas to the third-party contractors and other utilities for utility locates in the amount of $200 plus applicable taxes. In addition to the cost, another concern is that this could only be the beginning of these additional fees. In speaking with Mr. DeHaan, he indicated that Enbridge has put the proposal on hold presently because of concerns raised by municipalities. In the case of our city, based on the 2022, this would have costed approximately $60,000, a fee that would go directly cost for our municipality. Even if this is presently on hold, I think it is important to support making Enbridge aware that municipalities strongly oppose this fee. Thank you.
Thank you. As a seconder of the motion, Counselor Wheaton, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you through the chair, and the opportunity to speak to this, and I thank Councillor Lauder for bringing it forward. We had a couple of brief words of conversation about it. I think that $60,000 for our municipality, and then you compound that by, 444 municipalities in Ontario, is a significant cost for taxpayers, ratepayers, residents to bear for what is a cost of doing business for utility companies. I think it sets a very dangerous precedent to every other utility that if we take this one step is allowed now, it has a massive trickle down effect. So I support bringing this forward, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schadenberg.
Question through the mayor to Mr. DeHaan. Just curious, does the city of Woodstock not have some sort of a line locate system already in place in-house?
Your worship, through the counselor, Yes, we have our own locator, but he only locates our utilities. So that would be street light wire, storm sewer, and then we locate sanitary sewer and water main on behalf of the county. Every utility is responsible for locating their own utility. So our guy would not be able to locate, the gas lines.
Thanks, just wanted that clarified. Super.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? Well, I'd just like to say thank you to Councillor Lauder for bringing this forward and Councillor Wheaton. I do agree that this kind of sets a precedence for all the utilities, you know, opening a door. So with these kind of costs, I think it's in their best interest that, you know, they hire whoever they want to make sure that we're not damaging their systems in that sense. So I do think they should bear the cost themselves. So with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. No staff presentations or mayor's reports tonight. No councillor reports, but we do have department reports. 14A1, Statement of Revenue and Expenditures and Statement of Capital Expenditures. Looking for a motion, Councillor Schadenberg, seconded by Councillor Tate.
Yes, so Woodstock City Council received the statement of revenue and expenditure and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending March 31st, 2023 as information.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. 14A2, 2022 Development Charges Reserve Funds. Looking for a motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that the 2022 Development Charges Reserve Funds report be received as information.
Thank you. That's seconded by Councillor Tate. Discussion? Any questions, concerns on that one? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Now 14A3, reserve funds and reserve for capital projects. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the statement of reserve funds and reserve for capital projects at December 31st, 2022 as information.
Need a seconder on that motion. Councillor Wheaton. Discussion? Questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, engineering, 14B1 Russell Street Reconstruction Contract Tender Award. Looking for a motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council award the tender for the reconstruction of Russell Street to Bucon Construction Limited in the amount of $855,264.73, inclusive of HST.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on the motion. Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion? No questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, we have 14B2 encroachment agreement 12 Brock Street. Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Lauder.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approves the encroachment at 12 Brock Street and authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the encroachment agreement.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, being a member of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, just would like to thank this group for putting forward an accessible ramp. I think it's really important, and I know it's not always the most feasible for various business and people, but I do acknowledge that it's noted and much appreciated.
I will mention for those watching at home, that's the Masonic Lodge, I believe, that is asking for this. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Nothing for cultural services, parks and recreation, 14D1, 2023 capital purchase. Councillor Schadenberg, and seconded by Councillor Wheaton.
The Woodstock City Council approved the sole source purchase of a self-propelled ice resurfacer from Olympia by a Resurface Corp for the price of $95,000 with the trade-in.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Our Southwood Arenas, our Reeve Community Complex, Chief Administrator Darren Hall is here tonight, so we want to say hi to Darren. He's here in place of Brian Connors this evening. But I guess because the Olympia is going to be a near facility, is this replacing an existing one, or is one moving over to the Civic Center Arena, or how is the mix of Olympias looking in the city of Woodstock, Darren?
Your worship, through the councilor's question. So presently we have 3 ice resurfacers, 2 that are in the Reeves complex and 1 over at the Civic. The new purchase will be replacing the 2004 machine, which is essentially the second machine over at Reeves. Our process really usually is the 2016 machine we have at Reeves will move over to the Civic. The one that is at the Civic now will come back and be the second one. It'll be the oldest one in our fleet and be the backup, or when we have to double flood, we will use that then. So it's used periodically, but also a spare where we have in years past, if we had a major breakdown at the Civic, we have floated an ice resurfacer over to the Civic to continue service to our patrons. So yes, it is replacing the 2004 machine.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, Mr. Hall isn't here very much. Let's make it hard for him. Come on. Counselor Leatherborough, there we go.
Through your worship, my question would be to you, would the Parks Department ever be in favor of naming the ice resurfacing machines as a contest for the public?
So your worship, through the councilor's question, presently we do offer advertising space on each one of our ice resurfacers. The new one, we have an interest from our fire department that would like to advertise on it and promote on it. So that is not for sure yet, but we have talked about it. Naming it, that could be very interesting, yeah.
That would automatically make it sparky, wouldn't it? Counselor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, just to follow up, other cities name the snow plows, so I have pitched that to the Public Works Department, but we can also pitch that to your department as well too. No yeses yet, but thought I would ask you a question while you're here, so thank you.
That was a good question. That's okay. Keep him on his toes. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. That is carried. Economic Development, 14E1, extension for use of 16 Graham Street by Community Employment Services. Counselor Wheaton, second by Counselor Lauder.
That Woodstock City Council authorized the month-to-month extension of the current lease at 16 Grant Street to Community Employment Services as described in the report.
Thank you. Discussion? Counselor Schadenberg.
Yeah, through the mayor to Len Magyar, since he's joined us this evening. I guess briefly just explain how this would work at 16 Light Street, because there's currently a for sale sign by tender on the building.
Your worship, through to the councilor's question, that is correct. The property is for sale. So that's partly why this also is before council, because they're leasing space. So they're basically using storage to the rear of the property that you don't see from Graham Street specifically. But obviously a very necessary service, necessary for the community, necessary for new immigrants coming to the community. So important, I think, to keep that service up and running. So that's why the report's here, to extend on a month-to-month basis until such time as we actually sell the property. So we have had a number of people look at the property, and we don't expect that will probably be dealt with by council in terms of a sale probably until the fall. So it gives this group some comfort that they'll be able to continue to operate in that time, but still very much pushing forward on trying to sell the property, and interest is I would say generally pretty good.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Counselor Lauder.
It's just a comment. I know that they're very well established there because I have a relative that helps out. there, and they're very appreciative of this space, and it's very well used. So a big thanks to our community for allowing this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Magyar, maybe just, I think that we saw it in the report ourselves, but just for the public to know as well. The storage that they're using within the facility is not hindering at all on the sale or of any concern on having this sale go through, correct?
Your worship, through the council's question, that's correct. We actually have shown the building, and as part of our tour, when we're showing potential people who are interested in acquiring a property, we actually show them that space as well. So we let people know that it will be vacant at the time that it's necessary for their needs. So everybody's, everybody that I think we've dealt with has generally been very supportive about the whole concept and why it's so great for the community. So it hasn't really hindered any programming that way in terms of our potential sale. And as I say, we've been very upfront with people telling them that this is here, it will be moving when it's actually necessary.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, no, I'll echo those statements that they are very appreciative. I speak with them quite often. There's a lot of people that use the facility to gather things that are needed, and they're also very appreciative. So I'm quite happy with this council that approved it in the first place to get it going and get it up and running and making it obviously so affordable for them to be able to offer this. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. Clerks, nothing from Chief Administrative Officer, Human Services, nothing from Fire Services, Public Works, or IT tonight. No special committee advisory task force reports, no notice of motion, no new business that I'm aware of anyways. No. And that brings us to draft bylaws. Councillor Schattenberg.
Moved by Councillor Schattenberg, seconded by Councillor Tate, that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9590-23, a bylaw to provide for the land exchange of certain lands owned by the corporation of the city of Woodstock and Oxford Standard Condominium Corporation number 109. 9591-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-26-16 for 207 Graham Street. 9592-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-22-20 for 645 Dundas Street.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Carried, unanimous. Councillor Schattenberg.
Yeah, moved by Councillor Schattenberg, seconded again by Councillor Tate, that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9590-23, 9591-23, 9592-23.
Thank you. Last chance. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. And that brings us to questions from council. We'll start with Councillor Tate tonight.
For your benefit, it's 3-0 for the Leafs.
I was going to share that. I keep on getting messages. But yes, it is. Thank you. For end of first period.
And I just want to comment on the recent passing of Renee Rossway, who I know is close to your family. Renee served many years, I think 30 years as a police officer in Woodstock, but what a lot of people don't know, when he was there, he did a lot of volunteer work in the city. And he was, as I tell people, there was about 5 or 6 people that were the original group for the community complex, because they used to meet at my dad's place, and Renee was one of those people. So it's people like that. They never did it for recognition for themselves or for any other reason other than to give back to their community. And that's the kind of person that Renee was. And I know he was very good to your family and to Linda. And we miss people like that in the community. And just on that comment, I was just recently away, and never thought I would experience this myself, but the people in front of me decided to be quite rude to the stewardess that was on our flight for no reason other than there was a man sitting beside them. They thought he needed to go sit in first class. I have no idea. They were one row behind. Anyways, the way that they behaved was atrocious. They were very rude. So just remind people, please be nice to people. I felt terrible for the stewardess. The security actually came on and tried to evict them from the flight. They ended up staying, but it's always easier to be very nice to people instead of lashing out for absolutely no reason. So it was a reminder, and I laughed because when I got back, I saw on the news this man was freaking out on this baby crying on the plane. Well, the people behind me had a young child and it cried the whole flight because of its ears, right? So consideration of people is very important, and that it's just a constant reminder. And then when you see people like this that pass away, and that's how he lived his whole life. He was very kind to people, even though he was a police officer, but he was very kind to people. So it's just a reminder, please be kind. It's way easier to get through life. That's it.
Thank you. I will note that he was a very nice man, played a lot of cards with him. Very kind-hearted. Yes. And his funeral or celebration of life is this Sunday at 1 o'clock. But sorry, Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Oh, sorry, 1:30. I have to be there at 1 o'clock. Sorry, 1:30. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you to Councillor Tate for mentioning that. Renee was a great guy, and it's always important to recognize people that are a pillar of our community and people that don't realize just how much of an impact Renee had. So thank you for mentioning that. Of course, our condolences to Renee's family and friends. It's a really busy weekend. Councillor Schadenberg and I were talking about it before. There's lots going on, so I'm only going to mention a couple of things. I always love theater. I love music. So that's a big part of what I like to share with people. Don't forget, WCI has their concert for the Cure tomorrow night. It's always great to see the students from that school getting out and alumni come back to perform. So if you have an opportunity to get down there, supporting Sacra House as well, a great organization in our community, that will be a wonderful night for folks to enjoy. Cass, I have to mention it. I'm an alumni of Cass, so go Knights go. They have the production of Grease that kicks off. One of my very dear friends, her son is in it, so I'm super excited. For him, I don't get to go watch it, unfortunately, because my entire weekend is tied up. I volunteer with Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia. We support women and children in Ethiopia, and our big event is on Saturday for Gems and Java. So my entire Friday, Saturday are going to be there, but there's lots going on this weekend. Check out the City of Woodstock social media pages as well, and just check out what's on Woodstock. So much to be involved in and lots going on. And it's that time of the year where things really start ramping up. So get out and enjoy and support our community.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg.
Couple more events to mention that are coming up in the next few days. As has been mentioned before, it's the 75th anniversary of the Woodstock Museum being at its current location. 1948 is when it opened its doors. So one of the important events they have going on Wednesday, April 26th at 6:30. They have author Chip Martin. People in this area would know him well. He was a London Free Press reporter for a long time, and he's written lots of books, including one about the first baseball game in Beachville. But this particular book that he's coming to Woodstock to talk about is The Big World of Joe Boyle. And it was 100 years ago, just a few days ago, I think on the 14th, that Joe Boyle had passed away in 1923. So the Oxford Historical Society is putting on this speech on Wednesday, April 26th, and Chip Martin's in the process of writing a biography on Joe Boyle. And for a sports update, Woodstock is at the under 18 single A OHF championship. Now this tournament's not in Woodstock or St. Thomas or London or Stratford, somewhere close by. This Woodstock team's gone all the way to Porcupine for this tournament. So they play twice tomorrow. They play Centre Wellington, which is Fergus, and they play the host team, and they play Markham. They play New Liskeard. So you can see teams are from all over the province at this tournament. And this under 18 team, by the way, beat Brantford for the Alliance title to earn the invitation to go to Porcupine to play more hockey. So we wish them luck this weekend.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. This is from the Art Gallery. Please join the Woodstock Art Gallery as we celebrate the life and legacy of the groundbreaking Canadian artist Florence Carlyle, 1864 to 1923. Saturday, May the sixth, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. This event will include the dedication of the new Florence Carlisle Park and Bruce Flower Sculpture Garden at Ingersoll and Van Sittard, an announcement of a new commemorative public art commission, art activities, music, and refreshments. The event is free and open to everyone, and the first 100 people receive a free tote bag of WAG swag and Northern Paint kit from Beam Paints. Attendees can also enter a draw for a chance to win one of 3 prize packages from the art gallery. And the Woodstock Art Gallery is now taking applications to award $1,000 scholarship to a graduating high school student from Oxford County who has proof of acceptance and confirmation to attend an accreditation post-secondary institution in the field of visual fine media arts. This is made available through the Friends of the Woodstock Art Gallery Legacy Scholarship Fund. The deadline to apply is Thursday, May the 18th. And the Friends of the Library are having their book sale on Saturday, April 22nd at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that is being held at the Art Gallery. And if you haven't seen Guys in the Garage at the Theater Woodstock, I'd recommend it. I went to see it last weekend and it's still on this weekend, so you still have a chance to get there. And I think it's Saturday is the cleanup day for the city, and I have said I will help cook. So if you get a raw hamburger, that's thank you.
Councillor Leatherbrow.
Earth Day is this Saturday. I'm surprised Councillor Schadenberg didn't write the list of Earth Day events, but to Councillor Lauder, Earth Day this Saturday, Southside Park, between 8 and noon. There's also Reuse-a-Palooza, haha, Sweeburg Community and Lions Pavilion. So it's an item swap. I've volunteered and participated before. So what might be your junk could be somebody else's great finds. So that is also going on Saturday. And my family's been going out on the trails a lot. So whether it's this weekend in honor of Earth Day or just in general, if you see litter and garbage and you have, extra bodies around, do your part and clean up after those that aren't quite cleaning up after themselves. And I thought I'd share that on Tuesday night, the Woodstock Public Library had a successful retro video games night. My husband and our 2 oldest kids went. My husband beat Mr. Mayor in a round of Mortal Kombat. So
He not only beat me, he really beat me.
so I thought that was really funny when he came home to report. So have a great upcoming weekend, everyone.
I definitely got to play more games in my life. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you. But what a great event, a great idea for an event. And so I hope we see more of those. Today was the first meeting of the Safe and Well Steering Committee. And as we continually talk about helping those in homelessness and people who are unhoused, I'm very excited that next Friday, April 28th at 11 a.m., United Way will be celebrating the opening of Transition House in Tilsonburg. So while we experience our own challenges here in Woodstock, Tilsonburg is seeing a growing challenges around homelessness, mental health, and addiction. If you have the opportunity to get out and support, this has been a long time in coming. So it is Friday, April 28th at 11 a.m. at the Lion's Den, 45 Hardy Avenue in Tilsonburg. And isn't this Saturday the used book sale for the library, Friends of the Library? Bring your own reusable bag, and it is cash only, I believe, at the Art Gallery. Yes, so that's another great opportunity when you say someone else's might become your new treasure. So good opportunity, plenty of opportunities to get out this weekend and enjoy.
Thank you. The worst part about going last is there's not a lot to talk about. Let's see, a couple of weeks ago, I did a really fun thing at Cass. I did a Hot Ones, which is you've never seen the YouTube videos of them. You should check it out. They're quite funny, but you have to eat between questions. You have to eat a hot wing, and every time you answer a question, they get hotter and hotter and hotter. I made it to all 10, no problems at all. But saying that, to have grade 10 students, it was their enrichment class, co-op class, and their history class, to have that many grade 10 students talking and interacting so interested in city council in our city was just fantastic. And I welcome those opportunities and encourage all of council if you ever have the opportunity to do that. Maybe not hot ones, but something like that if you don't like hot. We are gonna make it a little more regular thing. They've reached out again. We're gonna do it on a regular basis and challenge the other schools to get their students interested as well. Let's see, what else have not, was mentioned Earth Day, but I do want to bring it up. Plan on being there this Saturday, 8 AM. Meet at Southside Park at the Parks Department at, again, 8 to get equipment and everything else, and you'll go out. But those that can attend, as the counselor mentioned, please go out. It doesn't mean you have to do it on one day. Feel free, pick up garbage as you're out and about. This is our city. Let's keep it beautiful, okay? Arbor Day is next weekend. I don't think that has been mentioned yet for tree planting. That's at 8 AM as well. And that we're going to be meeting at 181 Tamarack on the other end of town there. So hopefully we'll see some of you out for some tree planting. And I want to say congratulations to our director curator of the Woodstock Art Gallery, Mary Reed. She has the opportunity to present to the Standing Senate Committee. So congratulations to her and for deserving that recognition on such a big stage for some of the work and everything else she's been doing. So, and of course, it's 3-0, so I'm gonna go home and watch the game now. So if there's nothing else, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Leatherborough, second by Councillor Wheaton. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Go Leafs go. Thanks, everybody.